Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead, and happy Friday, Greg Soulje. Glad to have you with us here today.
Thank you, sir. Nice to be right with you and right back at you here on this Hip Hip Hooray finally Friday and a quieter day's worth of weather for everyone who have been dealing with the wind, the hail, the tornadoes, the flooding rainfall, and a quieter day in the weather office as well. The weather guy, I think, needs that too. So, yeah, hopefully everyone made it through A-OK on what's been a busy weather pattern and signs that's just not going to quit anytime soon. So we'll talk about that going forward here. And, of course, on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness.
Yeah, it has been a crazy few couple days here in the Midwest, that's for sure. So let's put your slides up and have you go ahead and give us the forecast.
All right, and we'll lead things off here with the quick check on current weather. And there's the visual satellite picture from this morning. Drier air, stable air, sinking air. That's how you come up with high pressure and an abundance of sunshine throughout much of the Corn Belt, especially central and western areas. And I can't figure a place out that has not been unscathed with severe weather in one capacity or another the past probably 10 days to 2 weeks or so across the middle part of the country, including parts of the winter wheat belt as well, and sections of the Great Lakes region. But you can see the remnants of those showers and thunderstorms that came roaring through the Midwest, and there's the last of that upper wave, that buckling, that U-shaped configuration. East of there is where you get unsettled weather. To the west, it's more of a zonal west to east flow, so there's no real cold air, just a return to more seasonal temperatures, and we've knocked down some of those readings that were pushing 90 to 95 out of the Great Plains. That heat, by the way, is headed eastbound for another day in some of the drought areas of the Mid-Atlantic region and sections of Cotton Belt country. Big broad area of high pressure across the middle part of the country right there, centered across areas of western Missouri where they have been clocked a number of times over. Kansas City, St. Joe, over towards Columbia, back up to the Iowa line and east from there, with flooding, rain, hail, high wind, tornado activity, you name it. It's been coming on down and still coming on down in the form of some showers and thunderstorms in through parts of middle Kentucky and western Tennessee. Lexington having set a record past couple of days for record-setting rainfall in that particular part of the country. And those showers and thunderstorms are forecast, by the way, to head east with maybe some severe weather this afternoon across some of those dry, drought-ridden areas of the Mid-Atlantic region. Apart from that, a couple of cold fronts showing up through the northern plains. Not much going on across the western states for the time of year, although kind of back-building westward retrogression of the hot ridge, as the weather forecasters say, getting its act together for now into the southwestern reaches of the country. So severe weather, just literally hundreds of reports of severe weather stretching from Michigan and Ohio all the way down into West Texas. That squall line that came on through yesterday late afternoon, about 6-7 o'clock, you could pencil it, line it up. It was as far north as Sault Ste. Marie and as far south as about maybe Dalhart, Midland, and Odessa, Texas, a part of cotton and especially livestock country out there. So we talked about the showers, thunderstorms over the southern Midwest. And so everyone now has shifted, although it's kind of an anomaly. The drought monitor is still showing from Thursday abnormally dry to moderate drought conditions. That data taken before the most previous of the rains have come on through. So there should be general improvement next week. And I'm sure the back 40 folks are keeping an eye on the crops across Illinois, Indiana, and the rest of the Corn Belt. If they haven't been flattened and sheared off, and yes, you can have green snap at that lower growth stage, and I'm sure that has happened in some of the Midwest, but things ought to be growing lickety-split in the coming days with regard to corn and soybean development. That is the report. That's the status report from yesterday. The blue dots indicative of general high wind above 55 miles per hour, stretching from Iowa through central Illinois into Indiana and through the mid-Atlantic states, the northeast of New England. A couple of spots did see tornado activity. We're getting a lot of confusing information, social media, not surprising, not quite up to speed. National Weather Service goes out and assesses the damage area, the crop, the signature of the wind field out there. And looking at their data, they can assess whether it was straight line winds, low top thunderstorms, or low top tornadic activity, and be able to determine what goes on. So this was generally a high wind, not even a derecho setup. Didn't quite fit the scale and magnitude, and we will have those more so this summertime season. Just your basic Midwestern squall line that came through multiple rounds of them. And that sometimes is what makes these thunderstorm outbreaks so impressive, that they happen one after another. You're able to quickly recharge the atmosphere and get right back at it. But tornado activity, parts of northwest Indiana, around Hoopeston, Illinois, 2 that were noted, photographed on social media around the Streeter area yesterday afternoon and evening time. So it's a return to more seasonal temperatures, a cool off for outdoor work and livestock operations of the plains, some showers and thunderstorms getting going over the southern plains, not only currently, but over the weekend. Some, again, too late to matter for winter wheat on some depressing yield numbers, but pasture lands, etc., will get some rainfall. And you can see, despite the recent rain, topsoil moisture still about 30% short, very short through all of the plain states areas, like by Colorado, at just a blowtorch pace of 87% short. And very short, there is the drought monitor from a couple of days ago. Yes, still showing abnormally dry conditions, but I think we'll see and will have seen improvement through Wisconsin, certainly Iowa, northern Illinois going forward. So everyone else here probably by next week should be denoted as at least adequate to surplus in the moisture department. That is the snapshot across the Midwest. I think they take this information a couple of days before, like about a Monday or Tuesday, over the drought monitor data. So southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, but that's been a widespread corridor, I'm sure, over the past 3 to 5 days that have generally, doing the math in my head, anywhere from maybe $1.50 on the lower side to maybe 3 inches on the higher side, cumulative over the past 3 to 5 days in those particular areas. And you can go downstate Illinois, parts of western Indiana that are going to be approaching 10 inches through the first half of the month of June down there. So some of those spots are underwater. A lot of streams and rivers from the Wabash to the Missouri, mid-Mississippi Valley, Illinois River, Embro River, I believe, in southeast Illinois and eastern Illinois, all at or better than flood stage. The hot weather today in the mid-Atlantic region, but there's a front settling southward. The atmosphere will try to weaken. We'll get a couple of thunderstorms going there that could be severe later on this afternoon and evening time. Threat for severe weather again across the mid-Atlantic region, where pasture lands are in terrible shape, 50% poor or very poor due to the ongoing dryness and drought as of the 7th of June. Severe weather. This is the outlook for tomorrow, Saturday. Yes, it returns to parts of Kansas as well as Missouri, and at least a slight risk again, not that moderate. And we were in I believe, a high risk, that level 4 out of 5 over parts of northern Illinois when the Storm Prediction Center brought their updates out yesterday late morning. So yeah, that's the way it played out accordingly. But severe weather, at least a moderate risk over parts of the southwestern Corn Belt come Saturday. So the heat continues to build west and northward. We kind of rearrange the jet stream pattern again, 105 across the valleys of California, and will increase the fire threat and potential out there going forward. You can see a look at temperatures, top left panel and bottom left panel. That's highs this afternoon. And again, for the day tomorrow, still pretty much seasonal throughout the eastern and southern Corn Belt, and hot weather back into the southern plains, and of course easing a bit over the mid-Atlantic and southeastern part of the country. We'll take probably a little better look, and we will actually detail it on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness about temperatures. I think that's the story. I think there are two stories. One, too much of a good thing. We're beginning to see, we're officially, by the way, now moderate drought. We're beginning to see the impacts of that. And I think, and it's been a while, and it's usually, we don't get a lot of El Niños that are this scale and magnitude in the summertime season and at the height of summer and going forward. So it may be one of these scenarios where we've got maybe too much of a good thing, that's rain, and maybe too little of a good thing. That would be beneficial heat going forward. I think we've got a couple of pretty good cool spells later in July and August. And I think we touched on that during our live stream last month, and we'll go into greater detail on the 23rd of this month with respect to that. Anyway, Friday afternoon, one front and severe weather for the mid-Atlantic region. Showers, thunderstorms down through the Tennessee Valley, mid-south Cotton Belt country. Another frontal boundary making its way through the upper Midwest. That'll spark later on tonight and tomorrow morning. Some scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm up towards the Twins. Welcome moisture out through Big Sky country, and maybe some severe weather going this afternoon and evening hours as well into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle country. By tomorrow morning, that secondary front drops to the south. New low pressure comes spinning out of the southern plains. Gulf moisture begins to return northward, and there ought to be some pretty good thunderstorm clusters once again on the overnight hours in 2 areas, Lincoln, Nebraska. I believe we had 88-mile-an-hour winds out there out of some of those thunderstorms a couple of mornings ago. A couple of mornings ago when the storms got going at Oshkosh, Wisconsin, unconfirmed, but someone's anemometer, I saw it on social media, and then the Weather Service, National Weather Service, unofficially reported 94-mile-per-hour wind gusts at Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So basic inland hurricanes sometimes out of these thunderstorms, but they'll get going into Kansas and Missouri. And look at the expansive rainfall tomorrow afternoon and evening time. More or less garden variety for a change across the Great Lakes areas, the northern parts of the Corn Belt, but some spots don't need any more water. This will be another quarter to a half, some 3/4 inch totals. And of course, we talked about the severe weather potential tomorrow afternoon for parts of Missouri, central Illinois, and points west from there. Front will come through. The winds will shift west, northwest, and it is a cooler, drier air mass. Briefly, we're going to do the same thing. Cool air to the north, heat down south, disturbance tracks along it. We'll get back into the thick of it probably at some point. By the middle part of next week across the plains and Corn Belt areas. The next 2 days, most of the targeted moisture is back where we don't need any more rain, eastern Kansas and the mid-Missouri River Valley portions of the state of Missouri. Next 5 to 7 days, you can see a trough in the middle part of the country, and the low up there through Canada, a bit unusual. That semblance of the polar vortex. It's around all the time. I know a few years ago we had the nomenclature, here comes the polar vortex, or we're renaming the atmosphere of the polar vortex, whatever you come up with, cold air intrusions. It's always there. It's always part of climatology. It just shifts from the polar region in summertime into the Hudson Bay, James Bay area during the wintertime season. And to have it this far south in latitude would line up correctly with what would be assumed and presumed a moderate and strengthening El Nino setup. But there's another trough coming through the Pacific West into the northern plains. And again, we wrap it through the northeast of New England. We flatten out the flow, and we're just going to continue to ebb and flow this kind of scenario. Bring some cool air southward, bring some heat northward, but hit the jet in between, and that's the perfect setup. Even in summertime, even this point in June, to get some organized ongoing rainfall in the middle part of the country. Again, systems and fronts tend to become a little more diffuse, but not in this particular go-around with a degree of cool air on the move. So they're actual cool fronts with drier air, cooler temperatures, lower humidity, and dew points. Those dew points during the height of the storms, by the way, that's the measure of atmospheric moisture. You get to 60, you start to feel the humidity. Most get uncomfortable at 65. This was dew point air, let's say, from Key West, Florida, with mid to upper 70s, which are pretty common when the ocean waters warm up this time of the year down there. So that was pretty ripe and juicy air. But you can see another front making its way from the plains into the Corn Belt over Wednesday and Thursday. And we just continue lobing and lobbing cool air and circling it through the Canadian Prairie, northern and eastern plains. Corn Belt shifted to the northeast New England, bring warmth back up, rotate things right around. You could just go on and on ad nauseum for the next month. And so, yeah, there's no shortage of rainfall really going forward the next month. It's either normal and or above. That's pretty much the thinking going forward. Next 7 days, and we keep going back and forth. Southern Great Lakes region on a heavy rain event or two. Then we shift it back into the southern Corn Belt, southern plains. Then we move it back into the eastern plains and central Corn Belt areas, Great Lakes region. That's the story. One benefit here is there are some organized rains in the I-10 and I-20 corridor down through Cotton Belt country, the Delta, and southeastern states. And what will be probably a quiet year, in quotes, in the tropical Atlantic when you have this degree and strength of an El Nino getting going. So they may need these summertime rains in that particular part of the country. So a couple of cold fronts on the move, a wide swath of 1 to 5 inch rains moving out of the southeastern plains across the mid-south into eastern Texas, Georgia, and the Carolinas over the next 3 to 5 days. And again, some shower thunderstorm activity, widespread severe threatening over the rest of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region. Cooler air, lower humidity, comfortable outdoor environs, while the hot stuff continues to build across the desert Southwest along the divide into the Pacific Northwest and more so desert Southwest, southern valleys of California. Good old Death Valley and Imperial Valley will be running 105 to 110 plus in the coming days. Next 6 to 10 days from the feds, you have this ridge trough position, which again is indicative. The ridge is warming. You cycle cool air through that. You get a trough to the east into the eastern states. And this is the thinking with kind of the right general idea going forward. You can squabble on some numbers, I'm sure, here, but the right idea with the trough in the east, the heat in the west, systems run down the spine of the Rockies into the Missouri Valley, swing across the Ohio Valley. Unusual for the time of year, but it's an unusual weather pattern and kind of broad-based, but the general right idea Again, you're chasing thunderstorms around, so they have an atmospheric mind of their own sometimes, but generally better than even odds, more so than usual for rains that will keep going through the third week into the third week of the month of June. And over the next probably a week to 10 days after that, at least the next 2 weeks on the government charts, you got a trough in the west, ridge in the middle part of the country, but a flat ridge, as we say it. The Northeast has the trough, so systems come in, they ride the ridge, they drop to the south and southeast. That is a snapshot of what you want to see in the upper air configuration when we start driving derechos across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and southeast across the Corn Belt, and you get a pretty good temperature discontinuity for the time of year with the slower crop growth and development, but easier moisture requirements, northern and eastern Corn Belt. The core of the heat 2 areas, southeastern part of the country, and under the ridge over the southwest, where it looks like we're going to try and get a little monsoon season weather going for a change in that particular part of the country. Broad strokes here, but the general right idea that the Midwest and Ohio Valley and Lakes region will be probably targeted for the most frequent outbreaks of showers and thunderstorms. I think everything else is a little mishmashy and overdone, but I like the idea of the Southwest and over the top of the ridge riding, derecho driven, classic derecho. Severe weather, thunderstorms across the middle part of the country. I think we've talked about this in previous live streams, that this will be probably a little more heightened year for that scenario to play through the plains and Corn Belt areas going forward. Anyway, update on the live stream, the summertime forecast. We'll take a look at the tropics, and there probably is not going to be a lot of change going forward. I know we can kind of precurse this by the TV show, and it's pretty much laid out in my thinking of what we've got to deal with. And I think we have some pretty sizable cool air intrusions for a good part of the Corn Belt. Great with outdoor work and festivals and holidays and all that outside and cookouts. Maybe not so good great for livestock, but maybe not so good for corn and soybean fields if you're trying to get to rack up growing degree day units. And sometimes strong El Ninos bring about early frosts over parts of the northern and eastern Corn Belt, northeast and New England. Then you level off into a very comfortable fall season. So usually when the weather pattern should be quieting down, Sarah, it's not. It gives us every reason to continue our get-togethers here and the live streams and the TV show and anything else we can get our hands on.
Exactly. Yeah. We certainly bring regular updates, and that's a good thing because weather is always changing.
Yes, it always does, and it's going to keep us on our toes going forward here for the rest of the summertime season. So plan accordingly.
There you go. Exactly. And we'll plan accordingly and have you back on with us next week sometime to give us some updates. Thank you so much, Greg, for joining us. And thank you all for tuning in today as well.